Shemeka, I shared with you a story from the New York Times this week where they were talking about Howard University and HBCUs in general. And they were saying at Howard, I think 26% of the population were black men. That there were actually more non-white students at Howard University, the most famous HBCU, than there were black men. They said that this percentage has been dropping over recent years, and not that long ago, it was 38% of HBCU students were black males. I read the story, and all I could think of was like, holy cow, look at the educational gap and how it keeps expanding and how no one talks about the crisis among black men in the educational system. That there was a quote in there, a comment in there about how everybody at Howard knows women run the campus. And so I was like, hey, where are feminists created? Right here on college campuses, right here on HBCUs. No wonder young black kids are not choosing to get married. They're not equally yoked educationally. They're not equally yoked spiritually. Their roles have been reversed. The women are the leaders. The men are the followers. I found the story fascinating. I did find it frustrating, though, because in every subtle way they could, the drop in enrollment of black men, it's Donald Trump's fault. It's the Republicans' fault. It's conservatives' fault. They're stopping DEI. Anyway, your thoughts on the story?
Jason, I was looking at blackdemographic.com, and it was actually saying that the amount of black men with a bachelor's degree has increased from 19% to, I think, 22%. And so maybe they just aren't going to HBCUs. I don't know. But when I read this article, I could understand it. As I was reading it, all I got from it was, are you gay? If not, come to an HBCU and we'll fix that. It was just like they want to make these men soft. And I don't understand what the obsession is. Well, I guess it is feminism, but there's like this obsession to make men into women. I was reading about the, toss your fears in the fire and the guy selling the shirts, you're worth it. Men didn't used to need all of that. But it's like they want to make men women. So if they're skipping out on college, I'm all for it as long as they're doing something else, which I think would be the problem if they're not actually going into entrepreneurship and making useful lives, which I do know that that's an issue as well. But it just seems as if college and school in general want to make men women. And one of the things that frustrated me about the article, you spoke about how they made it Trump's fault and talking about DEI, although we know black men aren't the ones that need that the most or use that the most. It frustrated me when I was just seeing them. I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
It's
This is
early
why,
in the morning. It happens.
yeah, I'm like, this is why we don't need to, yeah. But that was frustrating when I saw them talking about DEI and how women run the campus. I just don't like the idea that men should be subservient to women. And I feel that if you go to college, that's what we're kind of pushing on black men and men in general nowadays. Just be in touch with your emotions, which, listen, we're human. Everybody has emotions, but I think that men used to teach men or young boys how to handle them better. And now we're teaching young men how to handle their emotions like women, and I don't like it.
For most of my adult life, I've struggled with my health, feeling sore and low energy. But Relief Factor, it's changed all that. I feel better, I move better, I think better. And here's the thing, it's only $20. You've got nothing to lose. In fact, about 70% of those who order Relief Factor go on to order more. Begin your journey, start your transformation, reclaim your life. Relief Factor. Listen, I think you made an interesting point about maybe black men getting degrees is increasing, and it's probably because they're choosing to go to predominantly white universities, perhaps more than they had in the past, and going to HBCUs. And I'm just going to keep it real because that's what we do on this show. These HBCUs are so controlled, not just by women. It's an alliance between gays and women that are in control of the HBCUs. So, as a heterosexual black man, do you want to go to a college campus that is controlled by the LGBTQ and black women? I would opt out. I would not. When I was a kid, even before A Different World, the spinoff from the Cosby Show, but when I was a kid, we used to fantasize and hey, going to Grambling or going to some HBCU, what a great experience. And then when A Different World came out, people like really like, hey, an HBCU is this and that. Now these HBCUs are so alphabet mafia plugged in. I wouldn't want to go, and I'm not gonna call my friend's name, but his son went to Morehouse, I believe. Yeah, that's the one in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
And when he went on this visit, that was the first thing him and his son came back and said. I was like, holy cow, is it gay at Morehouse? He was going to play football at Morehouse, and he went to go play, but everything from his orientation experience, everything, there was a gay person directing him around the campus, explaining the campus to him, and they ran the place. I don't blame some of these black dudes saying like it's more heterosexual at these predominantly white colleges than it is at the black colleges. I'm going there.
Absolutely. It's funny that you say that because both of my youngest two are at HBCUs. And I can remember my daughter telling me a story about how she went to class, one of her classes for the first day. And there was a really cute guy in class already sitting there. And so she intentionally went to sit down beside him. And so she was, nervous and thinking maybe he'll say something to me. And she said he turned around and said, girl, did you read the syllabus? She said her thoughts and her hopes, just flew out the window because she was surrounded by feminine black men. And of course, they also had this workshop where they taught you about the pronouns. And she was texting me saying, what is Z and Zer? And it's ridiculous. As you said, they are in alliance with the LGBTQ plus P is silent. And that's actually what they're pushing on these young men. So I'm not against them going somewhere else where their masculinity can actually be nurtured, opposed to being ridiculed and told that it's toxic and that they need to bow down to women. We already know that among black people, there's this assumption or this idea that women should be in charge, and they continuously push that. And my thought that I lost earlier was the article was saying, that society don't accept black men's uh, thinking that their own potential, and they said this starts in grade school. Well, actually it starts in the home, because if a man is actually told, or a young man is actually told, you can do this, you can be great, you can excel, you can achieve, it doesn't really matter what society tells you, because you already have these things instilled in you, and you know that you can be successful. We put so much weight on society or school, and we're not focusing on what really needs to be focused on. For some reason, we don't want to accept the fact that this starts at home, and the family structure that is breaking down or has broken down over the decades. We keep ignoring that as if it's not a problem, and that's where the problem lies. If we don't start focusing on home and understanding that men not being in the home and these women who, if they have little boys, are constantly ridiculing them and being hostile towards them and stifling their voice, they're going to be angry. They're going to lash out because God gave men a leadership nature. When that is taken from you or not nurtured in the home, we're going to see what we're seeing. But for some reason we want to point the finger everywhere else. Like you said, the article talked about DEI, talked about Trump and conservatives, and it talked about, oh, school does this starting at kindergarten. Let's go to the homes and place the blame where it needs to be. Our homes are in shambles, and that's the problem. That's where it starts.
Like what you saw? Hit that like button, subscribe, and check out the full episode by clicking the link below.